Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Canadian consular officials are trying desperately to get hundreds of Canadian families out of Gaza as the war between Israel and Hamas intensifies. We hear from the Minister of Israel's Strategic Affairs, who explains why the world really needs to view Hamas as a terrorist organization. And the totals are in from this year's record-breaking wildfire season in Alberta. Government officials have the numbers as to how much of our province burned in 2023.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. A number of international aid organizations say it's getting even more difficult to get food, water, and medicine into the Gaza Strip because of the war which continues between Israel and Hamas. A reporter with Associated Press says getting much-needed supplies to civilian Palestinians is proving to be quite challenging as the ground offensive from Israel continues.
Israel is advancing deeper into northern Gaza. They say that they are at the gates of Gaza City, which is the biggest city on the Gaza Strip, where Israel says Hamas has its key infrastructure, its militants, and a huge underground network of tunnels. Israel hasn't given a lot of details about the offensive and has refrained from calling it a ground invasion. However, they have acknowledged that they've sent in troops and tanks and bulldozers, as well as special forces, all accompanied by air support, into this offensive. As part of Israel's attack on Gaza, it has hit with airstrikes the Jabalia refugee camp on the outskirts of Gaza City. Israel said it did this because Hamas is using it for its operations. It is using the camp and civilians as human shields. Hamas's Ministry of Health did not give specific numbers as to how many people have been killed in recent days, but said that there have been a lot of people who have been killed and is blaming Israel for it. There have been some foreign nationals in recent days who have been able to leave through the Rafah border crossing into Egypt. Several hundred people have been able to leave. It's unclear if this crossing is going to remain open in the days to come. This is currently the only way for people to get out of Gaza.
Now, Canada's Defence Minister Bill Blair says officials are working very hard to get around 450 Canadians and their families out of Gaza. He says consular officials and the Canadian Armed Forces are working closely with officials in Israel and Egypt to get people to safety. Foreign passport holders have been allowed to cross into Egypt for the past 3 days, but so far, no Canadians have been allowed to leave Gaza.
Certainly our Foreign Affairs Minister and I have had extensive discussions with our Israeli counterparts. We have certainly explained what we believe to be the urgent need to get the 450 some Canadians who have registered. That includes, by the way, permanent residents and their families that they have registered, and we are endeavoring to get them to safety and get them out of Gaza. We've been working very closely with the Israeli authorities. We anticipate that will take place in the next coming days, but I'm unable to give you with absolute precision the timelines for that, but we're working very hard on it, and we understand its importance and urgency for those people and for their families.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says there will be no temporary ceasefire in Gaza until Hamas releases all of its hostages. Netanyahu met with U.S. government officials who asked for a pause in hostilities so that humanitarian conditions can improve. Thousands of people packed into a square in Beirut, Lebanon, to watch a televised speech by a Hezbollah leader who praised the Hamas attack on Israel a month ago. He says the fighting on the Lebanon-Israel border would not be limited to its current scale. Israel's Minister of Strategic Affairs says some people are comparing the terrorist group Hamas to the Nazis from the Second World War. Hitler and the Nazi regime, as you may recall, wanted to wipe Jews off the face of the earth. Ron Dermer was on the program Centerpoint on TBN recently, and he says there's a huge fundamental difference between Hamas and the Nazis.
This is an enemy that we have not seen. It's worse than ISIS. I'll tell you even more than that, Joe. As a Jew, you never want to compare anything to the Holocaust because of the scope and scale of that. And just to put it in your viewers' minds, in 1944, they were murdering 10,000 Jews every single day in Auschwitz. So it's a totally different scale. But I'll tell you one difference between the Nazis and Hamas is Hamas are Nazis with GoPros, meaning they're filming it. The Nazis hid their crimes from the world. They tried to destroy the evidence of their crimes. They didn't celebrate the murderers for the SS. They hid them and tried to con the world that this wasn't happening. You had Nazi officials that would actually give tours of the Red Cross as late as 1944 to tell them, no, we're not actually doing this. Here you have an evil that is uploading videos of their atrocities. That's why it's so important for the world to rally behind Israel and wipe this evil off the face of the earth. Just like the world stood together and got rid of ISIS, just like the allies of the world understood that you can't make compromises with the Nazis, you got to actually finish them, take down that regime militarily and politically. The world has to back Israel so that we can destroy this evil, because if it rises again here, it's going to be coming close to you one day. We have to have a victory in Gaza, and it has to resonate not only among all of Israel's enemies, but among all the enemies of civilization around the world.
Canada's Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland says she's hearing from Albertans who are really concerned about pulling out of the Canada Pension Plan. She says Alberta would need to launch a complex and lengthy process if it decided to go out on its own with an Alberta pension plan. Freeland met with her provincial and territorial counterparts today to discuss Alberta's proposed exit from the CPP.
And every single minister, including me, a proud daughter of Alberta, spoke about our respect for the people of Alberta and for the absolutely essential role that Alberta plays as an economic engine for our whole country. But Alberta's choice about the CPP also implicates every single Canadian. So it was important for all of us as the federal government and provincial and territorial finance ministers to be present and to discuss together what the consequences for the whole country would be if Alberta were to leave the CPP, what the consequences would be for people across the country, including for the people of Alberta. That includes the financial reality for a province that decides to withdraw from the CPP. And that's why I told ministers today that I would ask the chief actuary to provide an estimate of the asset transfer based on a reasonable interpretation of the provisions in the CPP legislation.
Alberta Premier Daniel Smith has stated that more studies need to be done as to the feasibility of an Alberta-made pension plan, along with a referendum from Albertans to see if the province should in fact pull out of the CPP. Our province's Justice Minister, Mickey Amory, says politicians need to be able to make decisions in public health emergencies, which is why changes are needed for the Public Health Act. Health charges were dropped earlier this summer against an Edmonton area pastor, James Coates, and Ty Northcott, a Central Alberta man who hosted a rodeo in protest of COVID-19 restrictions. This came after a court decision a month earlier found the province improperly imposed the orders under the Public Health Act. The judge said the orders would have been constitutional had they been properly enacted by Dr. Deena Henshaw, the Chief Medical Officer of Health at the time, who had left it up to the Jason Kenney cabinet to impose them.
Amendments to the Public Health Act would provide clarity about who is responsible for decisions on public health orders during a declared state of public health emergency. Specifically, they would make it clear that Cabinet and Cabinet committees would have discretionary authority to make the final decision about public health orders during a declared state of public health emergency. I want to be clear that Cabinet and Cabinet committees would only make decisions after consulting with and reviewing any advice from Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health.
Well, we had some sunshine mixed with clouds today across much of southwestern Alberta. Jeanette Rocher is in now to let us know how the weekend is shaping up. Jeanette, our weekend may actually start off a little soggy.
Yeah, the first part of the weekend anyway is looking a little soggy there, Hal. Now, you mentioned the sunshine, and it was so lovely to see it once again today, along with the temperatures that are a little bit higher than seasonable. And so here's what's happening this evening. We're looking at an overnight low of 0. We're going to see clear skies, but then as we get into tomorrow morning, we're seeing increasing clouds, and then that's going to build up to 60% chance of showers by later on in Saturday. But look at those double-digit temperatures right there, 11 degrees. And you know what? I have good news for you, because that's going to remain on into Sunday, and it's also going to bring sunshine with it as well. So I'll be back later in the show to give you all those details.
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much, Jeanette. Well, there's some good news in regards to the wildfire situation in Oahu, Hawaii. It appears as though the huge blaze is moving away from the towns in the area. Fortunately, the wildfire has not threatened any homes or properties as of yet, and no evacuations have been ordered. The flames, however, have scorched around 5 square kilometers of trees and land. 3 Army helicopters were dropping water on the fire this week, along with help from the Honolulu Fire Department and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The Alberta government says the 2023 wildfire season was the province's busiest on record, with the largest area ever burned. Fire officials say 48 communities were affected and more than 38,000 Albertans were evacuated. While October 31st marked the end of the wildfire season, the threat of fire still persists in many areas of the province. Now, this year in total, 1,094 wildfires burned just over 2.2 million hectares of land. That's much higher than the 5-year average of 1,110 wildfires burning more than 190,000 hectares. Officials say this year's season was 10 times more severe in terms of burnt areas. While we experienced a hot and dry summer across much of southwestern Alberta this year, the city of Lethbridge is monitoring reservoir levels to ensure there's sufficient water for us. The volume in the Old Man Reservoir is at the lowest it's been since it was built in the early 1990s, and residents may have noticed low river levels in the Lethbridge area. Doug Kaup, General Manager of Water and Wastewater Services, says the water supply in the coming months and next year is fully dependent on what kind of a winter we're going to have.
We really won't know the position we're in until March, because that's when most of the snow falls, is in the month of March. So, watching the snowpack in December and January just drives you crazy. So I try not to look until February, March. But that's really the notice is just to make sure that to counter any misunderstandings or misinformation based on the information that's available from the province on what our water supply looks like.
The days of dry, snow-free roads will be coming to an end fairly soon in our area, so going on a road trip this weekend might be a nice idea. Some say that Lethbridge should be crowned as the road trip capital of Canada. The Director of Brand Development for Tourism Lethbridge couldn't agree more. Jerome Scott says if you want to check out some UNESCO World Heritage sites, Lethbridge is a pretty great destination.
Lethbridge is very lucky in that we have 4 UNESCO World Heritage sites right in close proximity that you can day trip to. In all of Canada, there's 20 UNESCO sites, and 4 of them are down here in southern Alberta, so that's a real boon to our area. In all of North America, there's no city that's as close to so many UNESCO sites in all of North America.
And the 4 sites we're talking about are Dinosaur Provincial Park, Riding on Stone Provincial Park, Head Smashed and Buffalo Jump, along with Glacier and Waterton Lakes National Parks. Local charities will benefit from over $10,000 in cash and toy donations on Saturday. They were collected as part of the Southern Alberta Bikers Motorcycle Awareness Ride and Santa Claus Toy Runs while helping out at the Lethbridge International Air Show this year. Dallas Hardy, president of the Southern Alberta Bikers, says it's great knowing how many in our community contributed to help provide for families in need.
It's not just the bikers themselves that donate and make all of this successful. It's the community and the businesses. You know, we sanction a number of different events throughout the year, and the businesses and the individuals are more than happy to support. Especially with our toy run, we have one of our members, Harvey Cootsy, goes out in the community and does a tremendous job of getting door prizes for the riders and donations for the event. And the community is just unbelievable. The businesses just, the toy runs are so synonymous, and the businesses just love to support. And without them, we couldn't do it. They're as big a part of it as the motorbike community is, and we really appreciate it. And that's what lends to make this so rewarding and what we're able to do tomorrow and help the local organizations.
Hardy says of the 10 organizations receiving support, it includes Streets Alive, Child Life Services at Chinook Regional Hospital, the Humane Society, and the Colehurst Legion. Elementary students in Lethbridge were invited to participate in a very special contest where the winner was crowned Fire Chief for a Day by Lethbridge Fire and EMS. The winner was grade 1 student Ryder Davenport from Mike Mountain Horse Elementary School. As Fire Prevention Officer Neil Jesse explains, the award is all part of a fire safety initiative aimed at children.
It's a draw that we do every year for Fire Prevention Week, which runs from October 8th for a week. at that time, and we hand out safety packages to all the elementary schools in Lethbridge, and they all fill out papers to put into a draw, and the student for Mike Mountain Horse was the winner this year. So we're here presenting him with an award, and Panago Pizza is lucky enough to join with us and provide a pizza party for the classroom. So it's a really fun event that we do every year, and it just kind of gets us out of the office a little bit.
Were you excited to receive that?
What kind of feelings did that give you to be the fire chief?
Excited.
You felt very excited? Yeah, it's a pretty special day, huh? Yeah. Did you know that we also get to go on a ride in a fire truck in a couple of days? They're going to drive us around in a fire truck around the city. What do you think of that?
Cool.
Pretty cool, hey?
Congratulations, Ryder, fire chief for the day. That's great. Hopefully you've received several reminders by now to set your clocks back on Sunday, as daylight saving time is coming to an end. Now, changing your clocks also means it's time to change the batteries in your smoke detectors. Fire Prevention Officer Neil Jesse shares some tips on how to keep your family safe as the mercury outside continues to drop.
We're leading into, winter time right now. People are using space heaters. Sometimes they're running candles for incense, all that kind of stuff. So it's always good to refresh your safety equipment within your house. Check your fire extinguishers. Make sure that your smoke detectors are up, they're running. Smoke detectors do have an expiration date of 10 years, so if you've been in your house for 10 years plus and you've never replaced your smoke detectors, probably a good idea to have a look at them and swap them out for new ones.
You know, with winter just around the corner, there'll be lots of snow and ice on the ground, which will contribute to us falling. November is actually Fall Prevention Month. Kathy Belton is with the Injury Prevention Centre, and they've launched an initiative called Finding Balance. Belton says when it comes to falling, it's not just seniors who are affected.
There is no evidence to show that falls are part of aging. They're part of your body systems not working the way that they should be because you're losing strength or you're not challenging your balance on a regular basis. So there are things that we can all do to prevent a fall, whether you're 65 or 80 or 20.
Make sure you catch the full interview with Kathy Belton from the Injury Prevention Centre and BCN's Jeanette Rocher coming up later in our broadcast. Well, it appears as though a low-pressure system is returning to our region, bringing more clouds and a slight chance of showers, just in time for the weekend. Full weather details are on deck. We saw some sunshine mixed with clouds today and above our seasonal values, which was nice. Jeanette Rocher is now with a full look at the weather forecast. Jeanette, we may even see more clouds and a chance of some rain this weekend?
Yeah, true. Clear skies tonight, but increasing clouds by tomorrow morning. And then we are going to see that 60% chance of rain right there on Saturday. But look at the temperature, higher than average for this time of year for sure. 11 degrees, looking at the double digits. By the way, Fort Macleod earlier today was the hot spot in the province. It was sitting at 13 degrees. I'm not sure about later on in the day, but there you go. Shout out for southern Alberta. High of 10 on Sunday with clear skies. Back up to 11 for Monday, and then 9 degrees on a Tuesday. Back to 7 on Wednesday, and then 9 degrees on Thursday. So we're kind of keeping even there and staying within that range, and even a little bit higher than average for this time of year, which is 8 degrees. -4 the average low. 22 was our high temperature back in 1962, and in 1991 it was a chilly -16, and that was the cold record. Okay, so 8:23 is when the sun rose this morning. Sunset this evening at 6:06 p.m. and we are looking at just over 9 hours and 45 minutes of daylight. We're about 2 minutes shorter daylight today than we were yesterday. Okay, looking at Victoria, 14 for a high. Looking at some morning showers, 20 to 40K winds there. 15 for a high in Vancouver. Vancouver, very rainy, looking at 10 to 15 millimeters of rain. Could see a risk of an afternoon thunderstorm as well. 8 for a high in Edmonton, looking at mainly cloudy skies. Also some wind chill factor in the morning there in Edmonton, going to feel like -4. 8 for a high in Calgary, also looking at 30% chance of showers there in Calgary. Now, across the rest of the prairies, looking at mainly cloudy skies. showers in Saskatoon, 1 degree for a high, 3 for a high in Regina, and 0 is the expected high tomorrow in Winnipeg, looking at a 30% chance of some light snow there. Now, we are seeing a 30% chance of morning showers in Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal tomorrow, high of 12 in Toronto tomorrow. Ottawa sitting at a high of 9 degrees and 10 for Montreal. Montreal also very windy, looking at those gusts up to 60 kilometers per hour tomorrow. As we look to Atlantic Canada, Fredericton also seeing that 30% chance of showers, high of 12 degrees, 13 for a high in Halifax, mix of sun and cloud, looking at up to 50K winds there. Charlottetown, same thing, up to 50K winds, 12 degrees for a high and 10 for a high. And St. John's looking at a 40% chance of showers there. And you know what? Their wind gust's going to be a little bit higher, up to 60 kilometers per hour. So there you have it. That is your forecast.
The founder of FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, has been convicted of fraud. Bankman-Fried, who once ran one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges, was found guilty of fraud and money laundering at the end of a month-long trial in New York. The jury delivered its verdict in less than 5 hours.
Sam Bankman-Fried perpetrated one of the biggest financial frauds in American history, a multi-billion-dollar scheme designed to make him the king of crypto. But here's the thing. The cryptocurrency industry might be new. The players like Sam Bankman-Fried might be new. But this kind of fraud, this kind of corruption is as old as time, and we have no patience for it.
We respect the jury's decision, but we're very disappointed in the result. My client, Mr. Bankman-Fried, maintains his innocence, and we're going to continue to vigorously fight the charges against him.
It's a warning, this case, to every single fraudster out there who thinks that they're untouchable, or that their crimes are too complex for us to catch, or that they're too powerful for us to prosecute, or that they could try to talk their way out of it when they get caught. Those folks should think again.
High interest rates appear to be weighing down the job market. Stats Canada says the economy added a modest 18,000 jobs last month. That bumped the unemployment rate from 5.5% in September to 5.7% last month. October marked the 4th increase in the jobless rate over the past half a year as the pace of job creation trails our population growth. Economists say the underlying picture for Canada's labour market is softening. Employment rose last month in construction and information and culture and recreation that was offset by declines in wholesale and retail trade, along with manufacturing. The parent company for Tim Hortons and Burger King is warning of increases in commodity, labor, and energy costs. Restaurant Brands International has also reported $364 million US in third quarter profits. That compares to $530 million a year ago. It says the drop in profits is due to income tax expenses and an increase in share-based compensation. On the sales front, the company posted a boost in revenue to $1.83 billion. That's up from $1.72 billion in 2022. RBI is also owner of Popeye's Louisiana Chicken and Firehouse Subs. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 198 points on the day to finish at 19,824. The Dow was up 222 points to 34,061. The S&P 500 was up 40 on the day to 4358, and the Nasdaq was up 184 points to 13,478. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down $1.64 to $80.82 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 2 cents to $3.49 US. Gold was up $6.86 on the day to $19.9265 US an ounce, and silver was up 45 cents to $23.21 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $9.30 per bushel, barley's at $7.30, canola's at $15.55, and corn is at $8.58 per bushel. Live cattle were down 80 cents to $183.88. That's for the December contract. Feeder cattle were down $2.03 to $244.60, and lean hogs December contract was down $1.53 to $71.75. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to 73.22 US. Recapping one of our top stories, Defence Minister Bill Blair says officials are working hard to get around 450 Canadians and their families out of Gaza. He says consular officials and the Canadian Armed Forces are working closely with officials in Israel and Egypt to get people to safety. Foreign passport holders have been allowed to cross into Egypt for the past 3 days, but so far, no Canadians have been allowed to leave Gaza. November is Fall Prevention Month. Kathy Belton is the director of the Injury Prevention Center, and she has some tips on how to prevent falls for everyone, including our seniors, while helping to provide more balance in our lives at the same time. Watch the interview with BCN's Jeanette Rocher momentarily. Listen, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. And if you missed any of today's local stories, visit our website, bridgecitynews.ca.
Well, safety measures like smoke detectors and steel-toed boots have proven to be effective in preventing injuries and hospital visits. But what about accidental falls? As we observe Falls Prevention Month in November, we have the privilege of welcoming Kathy Belton, director at the Injury Prevention Center. And she's going to talk about their latest initiative called Finding Balance. Thank you for being with us today, Kathy.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Great to have you on. First off, can you maybe provide us with an overview of the Finding Balance program? What is it?
Well, Finding Balance is a program to educate seniors on the actions that they can take to prevent falls. We know that 1 in 3 seniors will fall. That's 1 in 3 seniors over the age of 65. And we know that there were almost 10,000 hospital-related hospital admissions in 2021. So when a senior falls, it often leads to a lost independence for them because, again, 1 in 3 will end up in a nursing home because they are no longer able to live independently. So really what Finding Balance is trying to do is to keep seniors happy and healthy and living in their own homes as long as possible.
That's wonderful. And those statistics are very alarming too, that many seniors end up in the hospital and might even lose their independence from a fall. That's actually really, really scary. Now, Kathy, as the director of the Injury Prevention Center, what motivated the initiative to focus specifically on falls preventions amongst seniors? I mean, you read off some stats there, and that pretty much, I guess, sums it up, huh?
Well, falls are the leading cause of injury death in this province, and that goes for all ages. They're a big cost to the healthcare system, and they're a big cost to society in terms of those seniors that can't live independently or succumb to their injuries after they've had a fall. So we really want to reduce not just the burden on society and the healthcare system, but also the burden to seniors themselves. The average length of stay for a senior when they've suffered a fall is about 22 days.
Wow.
So we also know that the longer you're in hospital, the more you are susceptible or put at risk for other injuries or infections. So
okay, now your program, I believe, started in 2007. So what sort of impact has this Finding Balance program had since then?
Well, we have been able to show that seniors are now taking more responsibility for preventing falls. We have more of them exercising. We have more of them, taking away tripping hazards like scatter mats, installing grab bars, doing simple things like when they go outside in the winter, taking a small can of sand or a small plastic container full of sand so that they can safely walk to their vehicle or across a parking lot. We have made a difference that way, and that seniors are now more actively starting to do things that will make them stronger and improve their health.
Yeah, I can't help but thinking of my own mom in the situation with this weather and the icy, slippery sidewalks. And I know she's had a couple of falls over the years that have resulted in some breaks. Thankfully, she's still independent right now. But what are some of the educational components of the program that empower these older Albertans to maintain their independence and doing so while preventing falls in and outside of their home?
Well, this year we're focusing on three main messages. We're trying to get seniors to move their body, and that is, to challenge their balance and to stay active. We're also asking them to improve their health, which means getting their medications checked. We know that seniors, are on a lot of medications, some of them, and we're just trying to get them to go through that list of medications that they're on, to talk to their doctor or pharmacist to see if there's one of them that they can delete from their daily lives. The last thing that we're going to try to do is get them to remove hazards in their home, and those again are tripping hazards. Making sure that the mats that they use in the bathroom are non-skid, making sure that electrical cords are against the wall, doing anything that they can to improve their space.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I think balance sometimes can affect them as well. And now, do you collaborate with like seniors groups or healthcare organizations and practitioners to enhance the effectiveness of this initiative?
We do a lot of collaboration, and we have a lot of senior groups that work directly with us and get resources from us to pass out to their friends and colleagues. We also collaborate with Alberta Health Services with their frontline staff that work with seniors. We collaborate with the Alberta Optometrists Association, the pharmacists across the province, the Alberta Therapeutic Recreational Centers, our libraries, almost anywhere that we can get those messages to seniors is what we do.
No, that's fantastic. Now, of course, November is recognized as Seniors Falls Prevention Month. So what special activities or campaigns does the Injury Prevention Center organize during this month to raise awareness about falls prevention among seniors?
Well, we have coming up a couple of webinars for seniors, one on nutrition and one on an exercise program that they can take part in. So we're really trying to just educate them on actions that they can take without too much difficulty. Some of the stuff that we do is promote some of our resources. We have posters that seniors can put up in their homes to do exercises that will take less than 15 minutes. But if they do them regularly, they will improve their strength and their balance. We have videos. We have, band exercise booklets. We have a number of resources.
No, that's fabulous. Now, Kathy, in your experience, are there some common misconceptions about falls prevention among older adults?
One of the I guess the ones that we have to dismay or put aside is that falls are a normal part of aging, and no, they're not. There is no evidence to show that falls are part of aging. They're part of your body systems not working the way that they should be because you're losing strength or you're not challenging your balance on a regular basis. So there are things that we can all do to prevent a fall, whether you're 65 or 80 or 20.
Well, that's good to know. Definitely. It's not something that we are sort of going to succumb to as we grow older. And then, so how does the Finding Balance program then address these misconceptions through its educational efforts?
Just through education and that growing awareness. I think one of the things that we have done really well is included seniors in the development of all of our resources. So they're not preaching. They're just getting seniors to assess the risks that they take and to make those decisions and being aware of what could happen if they don't, if they don't exercise or they don't eat right or maintain their hydration.
Yeah, just preventative measures, right?
Yep, basically. That we all should be taking.
For sure. So, and then of course, that leads into my next question here, preventing injuries. Of course, a key goal of the Injury Prevention Center. So besides education, what else does the center do to support communities and decision makers in reducing these catastrophic injuries and deaths in Alberta?
Well, we provide a lot of evidence to decision makers in terms of what policies and what programs actually work for preventing injuries. We do some research, but it's all community-based research. So we look at program evaluation and policy evaluation. We provide expertise to community groups that want to do something. Around a number of topics, not just fall prevention for seniors, but, e-scooters or motor vehicle collisions, poisoning prevention. We do a lot of different things. One of the things that we try to do is to look at what are the leading causes of catastrophic injuries to Albertans, and we try to address those.
Definitely. Okay, so, considering the aging population, how do you see the role of technology in fall prevention programs evolving?
I think technology has its place, and I think one of the things that we have been able to do, not just as a center, but as a field in fall prevention, is that we've been able to put some technological things in place so that if seniors do fall, they can access help readily by the push of a button. We have also been able to, because of video cameras and everything else, to really analyze what happens when a senior falls and to build some preventative measures around that, and to really look at what is really happening before this senior falls, what is leading up to that fall, and can we address that in any way, shape, or form?
That's a great advancement. And is the Finding Balance program incorporating these?
Yes, in our messaging, yes, we do incorporate anything that we find out through research is always incorporated into our messages and our resources.
Okay, fabulous. Since the Finding Balance program focuses on empowering seniors, are you able to share any success stories or testimonials of older adults who have benefited from your program?
One of the comments that I've had over and over again from seniors when we do community health fairs is that seniors are very grateful for the information, and they are really taken aback that an organization, anybody, is paying attention to them and their health. I think sometimes the seniors in our lives and in our province and our country feel left alone. So anything that we can do to tell them that we're looking, we're helping them to look after themselves is a good thing. Yeah. And we've got letters from seniors thanking us for the time and effort that we put into our materials.
No, that's wonderful to hear. And yeah, it's true. They just want to know someone's kind of looking out for them. Absolutely. Kathy, as part of the Finding Balance campaign, are there resources or workshops available for caregivers and family members of seniors to help them create safe environments for their loved ones?
I would direct everyone to the Finding Balance website. All of our resources are on there, and most of them are aimed at caregivers and seniors. There's a few that are for practitioners, to do fall prevention initiatives, but most of them, I would say 90% of them are for seniors, are caregivers themselves.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And then, of course, speaking of like education and spreading the word, public awareness and community engagement is always key. So has the Injury Prevention Center, have you taken any initiatives to engage local communities and encouraging them to participate in fall prevention activities and education?
Well, one of the things that we do, we have a steering committee for the campaign and the program, and it's made up of people across the province, and they do different initiatives. For example, yesterday in Central Alberta Falls Prevention Coalition, they had a walk with the mayors. So in Olds, they had a walk with the mayor. So it's just little things like that are getting the word out.
No, that's fabulous. Okay, now looking ahead, what are the future goals and initiatives of the Injury Prevention Center, particularly, I guess, concerning fall prevention, and how can individuals and communities actively contribute to these efforts?
I guess the best way I think that people can get involved is again to contact the Finding Balance campaign through the website. The other thing that we're looking at right now is teaching seniors how to fall. So, because they've asked for that, that's a skill.
Okay.
Because we know that most people, when they fall, they put out their arms,
Okay.
which lead to broken wrists and everything else. So we've heard a request several times over. So that's what we're looking at right now is, can we devise a program to teach seniors how to fall safely? If they're going to fall, can we make sure that it's a safe fall?
No, that makes sense. It sounds like a skill too, because obviously falling, I mean, you're reacting just naturally. So it seems like it would take time to get that training in there. What is the best way to fall? With that said, how do you train them to do this?
The evidence is mixed right now, so that's why we're taking our time to get this right. I can tell you from, as a former volleyball player, I was taught, how to roll, how to dig the ball out and roll. So I use that in my own life. When I'm going to fall, I make sure that I tuck my body and don't put my arms out. But I think that there's more evidence to come.
Oh, sounds like it, definitely. Oh, thank you so much for that education. I feel like I've learned a lot today, and thanks for your time today too, Kathy.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We appreciate you. Kathy Belton is the director at the Injury Prevention Center, and she joined us from Edmonton today. Did you know that, as with most languages, the words for certain modern-day items didn't always exist? And this, of course, is especially true of Indigenous languages like the Blackfoot language. In fact, it's quite interesting how some of the Blackfoot elders have come up with words or phrases for modern items like computers, cell phones, and texting. I'm so pleased to have Arnold Fox joining me today. Arnold is the director of the Blood Tribe Social Development, and he's going to talk to us a little bit more about Blackfoot language and interpretation. Welcome to the show, Arnold. Great to have you on today.
Happy to be here, Jeanette.
Okay, so why don't you maybe start off by telling me a bit about what you do, what your work kind of looks like over there at Blood Tribe Social Development?
Okay. Well, in relation to the Blackfoot signage project and in relation to the Blackfoot language, our department stepped forward to host what we eventually called ATEEP Weeks Language Committee. So ATEEP Weeks means Blackfoot speaking. That's what that phrase, that word means, ATEEP Week. So we're the speaking language group. And the task that was given to us, it was instituted a little over 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. The major part of our task is to help preserve the Blackfoot language and to help the language itself move along and adapt to current terms that are used today in our everyday language. So that's why it's a dual function. We realize that a lot of First Nations across the country are losing the language. I believe there's some dire predictions that within 25 years, we will just have 3 First Nation languages still functional in Canada.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's quite astounding once you think about it. And I grew up with the Blackfoot was the first language, and I can't really envision not being able to use that or not giving it to our children and our grandchildren to be able to carry forth. So that was the gist of our task in that committee. The committee itself has 10 to 12 elders who come together once a month, and we offer an annual symposium. Blackfoot Language and Symposium in Lethbridge is the most convenient location. There are some representations from other Blackfoot nations in the area, Blackfeet in Montana, the Pinchot Nation near Pinchot Creek, and Siksika near east of Calgary. So those are the Blackfoot-speaking nations in North America.
Fascinating, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So out of that, I would say I'm being optimistic by saying 20% of us still use that language on an everyday basis. So it definitely is in fear of dying at a certain point or not being utilized anymore. So that's what we're hoping to avoid. We're realizing now with the programs that we offer, even in social services, we offer short-term employment training for our clients. And we have fully realized over the years that one of the modules they take is the Blackfoot culture and the Blackfoot language. I used to take for granted that our younger people had this opportunity to learn at home and all of that, but that's not the case. In my generation, we were lucky that there was a very limited amount of influence from media. So the everyday language we heard all the time was Blackfoot, whereas our younger people are inundated with TV, just to start there, radio. I often tell my audiences that when I was growing up in the 50s, 1950s, we had a radio, an old radio that sat on top of a cabinet, and there was a big dry cell battery. So whenever the battery went dead, there went our connection with the outside world.
Sure.
We're particularly insular in those days, so we didn't have all those influences.
Yeah.
Just like one of my nephews, we made a concerted effort to have him speak Blackfoot from the time he started uttering words. And he was doing really good. Okay? We noticed that the words he was uttering up to 2 years of age were Blackfoot. But that's because in the home we had decided, no, he's going to speak Blackfoot. He discovered TV around that age, and what's that? Anyways, he discovered it and was very drawn.
Probably Nickelodeon or, the kids' shows, right?
Sesame Street, but they're all in English, eh?
Yeah.
So we realize the influence that our young people have to live with is nothing like what I went through growing up. It was comfortable for me to carry on the Blackfoot language, but it's not that for kids anymore.
No, that's so interesting, and it's so true, and it's something we don't really think about. You were mentioning that they're predicting there could only be 3 Indigenous languages left. How many are there? I mean, there must be hundreds, right?
Well, yeah, if you stop to think, there are 500 plus different First Nations in Canada. To get an idea, of course, there's regional, like the Woodland Cree have a big area in most of the provinces. So that language I know will survive because there's a lot of speakers over an extended geographical area. But once you start, like I said, becoming too insular, you don't have that opportunity. And in our population too.
Definitely. So interesting. Now, Arnold, as the director of the Blood Tribe Social Services, I know that you are also involved in a Blackfoot signage project. And just for some background for our viewers, several organizations in southwestern Alberta, I guess, have partnered up with Kainai Nation to fund the construction of Blackfoot language signs across the region. So I guess this is to both enrich the landscape and invite locals and visitors to learn more about the deep history of the region. And I would say have the opportunity to see the translations of certain community names in the Blackfoot language sort of come to life. I find that really interesting. So Arnold, as the director of Blood Tribe Social Services, you're a part of this signage project, which will see these beautiful signs come to life with this language. So tell me more about this project and sort of how it came to be.
Okay, I would like to think that really the idea was planted as part of the TNR, the Truth and Reconciliation. All of the recommendations, I think there was 108 recommendations that came from that. And I've been noticing in southern Alberta, in my world, I travel a lot to Lethbridge. We're not confined. We shop in Fort McLeod, Cardston. So we have a lot of daily interaction with these communities. And the Blackfoot names that were assigned to these communities go way back. Now, there's some newer communities that that we're going to have to sit with the elders to develop the name. So South Row is the name of the organization that invited me to join. And so I did. And I didn't really know at first what the extent of the program was. But in our first couple of meetings, I've grown to appreciate that this is a really worthwhile effort for Southern Alberta. I don't think there's enough we can do to further the relations between the population here, the Blackfoot or blood population on Kaena, and the surrounding communities. There's been some excellent relationships that have developed over the years. I can two at this point that are kind of related to what we're doing. It just emphasizes more communication, positive in a positive light. So that's what we're doing with these. Now we're going to open it up. It's open to towns and counties. You know how when you enter a county, you see a little sign?
Like welcome to Tabor or Cardston or
So those are the two kind of that are foremost. Certainly welcome to look at other, but for those two, for the towns and the counties, we're definitely looking and hoping to get applications from them to on this signage. I'm thinking it's another opportunity for us to interact with the wider population. And there's another initiative that's looking at racism and working with the mayors of the surrounding towns and trying to establish a common footing to address the racism. Now, there was another project I was thinking of, but those give you an idea that there's more activity, there's more interaction between the Blood community and the surrounding. We've utilized the towns, like I said, for shopping. 50% of our kids are bused off the Blood Reserve to the surrounding communities to attend school. So there's a great deal of interaction, and we just want to try and do our part to ensure that there's more positive chances than there are for negative interaction.
Yeah, no, it's such a fabulous idea, and I just look forward to seeing these new signs going up. And I believe the project is inviting communities, businesses, institutions to take part. And what they can do is, I believe they can apply. Is it a $2,000 grant that they can receive for the creation of this sign, right?
With the stipulation they throw in 500. So we're offering them 80% funding for the sign. Yeah. So I should mention also, Jeanette, that I explained to the committee that I'm working, to the signage committee, that there are names for some of the older communities in Southern Alberta, but it's not always a direct translation. There's something that strikes our elders that's peculiar about this, and that sometimes they go with that. I'll give you an example, Tabor.
Okay.
Because Tabor sounds similar to table.
Okay.
That's actually that our name for Tabor is Idasuyo, which means something we eat on, which was the name we gave. It's not, whereas Fort McLeod, Agapioyus, means many houses. So that's where the fort was established, and then the community started growing. So we refer to it as many houses. So that's been historically the name. Yes, and Lethbridge, Sikoko, Black Rock, for the coal mining history that Lethbridge was the central part of in Southern Alberta. So it would be a direct translation or just a similar sounding word in the English language, like Tabor. Right?
I've also been told, Arnold, that you're a wealth of information when it comes to the language, the Blackfoot language, and particularly how some of the language has had to sort of adapt over the years to accommodate more for modern words, almost like, like the technology that we use, like computers, cell phones, because those weren't around, obviously, back when the Blackfoot language was coming to be. I'd love it if you could tell me a little bit more about that.
So we, at the annual symposium where we gather the reps from, mainly from Ghana, from Blood, but like I said, the 3 other Blackfoot nations always have reps there. So one session is always devoted, we call it coining new phrases, coining new. So the audience is invited. We always limit it to around 200, 225, and it's always full. We have to turn people away. So we know it's been a very popular symposium over the years. So in opening up that one session, we invite the audience to submit words that they would like translated. And we'd like to make a difference at this point between translation and interpretation. So we offer both. We can interpret word for word, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily work. So sometimes we have to interpret what the speaker is trying to say and then issue our word for it or develop our word for it. So, yeah, so that's been a major part of our work in bringing the community together. And what we want to do is, when we have enough of these new words, publish them in a booklet so people can use them for easy reference. There's been a number of other organizations that have developed apps for the Blackfoot language. So you just go into that and you get the translation for the, well, not the translate, the pronunciation.
Okay.
And the translation or interpretation of. So there's a lot of tools that are available out there for people who are interested to start learning it. So texting at our second last symposium, we said, okay, everybody, even our seniors use texts nowadays, eh? So we said, okay, how do we translate it? And the most accepted one in the symposium seemed to be Steckam Sinakyo, an object or a process where you write fast. So that's how we.
Okay. So it interprets into process where you write fast. Texting. Maybe not for all of us, though. Especially when you get those clumsy thumbsies, you know, and you're like, have to go back. That's not what I meant to say. Arnold, it looks like we're about out of time, but thank you so much for joining me today and having this really fun conversation about, you know, some of the interpretation of Blackfoot language. It's really interesting.
Okay, well, I hope we have a chance as we move further along. I can report how many communities have taken us up on our offer, etc. Yeah.
I would love to hear that. Thanks so much, Arnold. Arnold Fox is the Director of Blood Tribe Social Services. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks for watching.